Good morning, y'all. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, and happy blessed Tuesday to those of you guys that are entering in. Welcome to yet another day, yet another episode of our typical daily manners. I pray that you guys have been enjoying them. Those of you guys that have been catching every single one, or catching the ones that you were simply meant to catch. As always, as you guys are entering in, go ahead and tell God thank you. And tell me one thing that you are grateful for on today. Even if you're catching it on the replay, go ahead and Come on, Samantha caught me live. Even if you guys are catching this on the replay, go ahead and hashtag replay crew. It is so good to be here this morning. I will say that today I am just grateful just for peace. I'm grateful to have been able to wake up and to have felt as refreshed as I have felt. And so that is what I am grateful for on today, amongst a host of a whole lot of other things. I know, typically when we say, just tell us one thing that you're grateful for, the truth of the matter is that there is so much to be thankful for when you like really like look at like how God covers us, the lengths that he goes through to make sure that the devil does not triumph over us. And so I feel like this season of my life has just been about that gratitude in the spite of painful moments, gratitude in the spite of, uncomfortable situations, gratitude in the mix of having to wait on God, gratitude all around. I've just been in a space where I've just been grateful for who God is and for the help that God sends, for how he does what he does. And that's just kind of where I am. As you guys can see, God gave me the topic today of focusing or focus on your now. I sat out here because this morning has been a kind of more chilled morning for me. I'm a bit late, y'all. I had to moisturize my hair. Say, Lord, I'm sorry, I'm gonna be a little bit late, but I believe I'm right on time. But as I got out, just sat in God's presence, He was talking to me and dealing with me about the waiting phase and get to a place where you are at peace while you wait. The hardest things to do is to get to a place where you are at, I'm gonna call it like where you have solitude in the wait. I'm gonna say it again. Listen, congrats to your son, Miss. It's so good to see you. It is so good to see y'all. As y'all are coming in, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Congratulations to your congratulations. Lord continue to bless their union. But I feel like, waiting on God and finding solitude, finding just real peace. And I'm gonna say this: peace and rest are like are a package deal when like the waiting phase and getting to a place where you just trust God. What's up, Miss Nicole? Not y'all rolling on in. I'm gonna say it again: like peace and being able to rest are indicative of a person's like faith. It's like, to me, a person that is waiting on God, how you can tell that they really trust God is when they're not freaking out while they wait. They're not anxious while they wait. They're not hopeless while they are just at there's a attitude that person has where it's just like, I'm okay. I'm focusing on what I can control. And like one of the things that God taught me in my wilderness, when I was battling heavily with anxiety and depression, was he taught me like what the root or what the cause was. I feel like a lot of times when we get to a place where we're anxious, a lot of times we really don't be knowing like why we're anxious or what caused it, or battling depression. Sometimes we can't really pinpoint it. And so there was a moment in my wilderness where God began to deal with me about like why I was anxious and why I was battling depression in that season. And this may relate to somebody. It felt like those things were like ping ponging me. Anxious, I was depressed. I had maybe a split second of peace, and then the devil would do something, or my expectations wouldn't get met, and then I'm all heavy again. I'm anxious, and then I'm depressed, and then sometimes it felt like I was both of them all in the same in the day. Broke down like what the root of anxiety and depression really was, and what he told me, it shocked me. He said both of those things are derived from a place of fear. I'm gonna take my time to get this out. Yep. He said both of these things are derived from a place of fear. Now, to add a little context to what I'm about to, in this season, not only was I having to wait on God to provide like my everyday essentials, food, gas, but there were bills on that were due, past due in that season. On top of that, it felt like while I was waiting and I'm following God, I'm obeying God, I'm doing everything that I know how to do. It felt like the devil was on my back, and it just felt like God was not covering me or shielding me from what the devil was doing. It felt like the more I followed God, the more the devil attacked me. And by attack, I mean like there was warfare. Whether it was warfare, good morning, whether it was warfare when it revolves around sleeping at night. Some of y'all feel where night times for me, they were extremely heavy. I was extremely anxious, and even in moments where I found enough peace to like close my eyes and go to bed, a lot of times when I would sleep, the devil would torment me. I would experience things from sleep paralysis to just honestly just being terrified, and I was just stuck in my thoughts. And I'm gonna just say this: when you are already struggling with double-mindedness, the nighttime, which is a time of rest, only highlights the that you don't trust God. Whew. I'm gonna say that again. When you are battling double-mindedness, the nighttime, the weekends, those days that are associated, or moments within the day that are associated with rest, those moments only highlight the fact that you don't really trust God, or the fact that you are having doubts. And so a lot of times at nighttime or on the weekends, don't have anything to run to, or you from what you're enduring. A lot of times those moments, the devil just really just wreaks havoc, whether you are extremely angry those moments, whether you just feel highly overwhelmed during those moments, whether you just doing this, or I just want to just simply quit. Some of y'all have been feeling that way. If that's you, just give me some fire emojis. And so like that was me in that season. I double minded, and the nighttime just highlighted the fact that I was double minded. And I'm going to just say this: fear will always be an opening for the devil, which is why a lot of times, night times and the weekends, or those quiet moments, sometimes infiltrated by the. And so in that season, like I was really battling with anxiety and double-mindedness. It would be like I'm believing God to pay a bill, or believing God for a specific thing, and the time comes where I feel like the time comes for me to get a thing, and it doesn't happen. And now all of a sudden, when it doesn't happen, right, I'm looking at God, and I'm like, what you mean, God? Like why it ain't happening? And all of a sudden it would create these moments where I'm going back to God, and I'm saying, make you a moderator, Kaylee. I'm going back to God, and I'm saying, right, hold on. Let me make you a moderator real quick. Why they ain't doing it? Okay, there it is. Right now. But you can pin comments, I want to say, the case may be. But turn into these moments where I'm going back to God. No, thank you. I'm like, God, are you still gonna do it? Like I express my doubt. So, one day God told me, and that created the cycle of being anxious and depressed. I'm gonna say it again. Sorry for the birds chirping. They got this baby birds everywhere. But I'm gonna say it again, like those moments of me just going back to God. I'm like, is it still gonna happen? Is it my time? Like, are you still gonna do it? Has this changed things? Your mind wanders a million miles an hour when you are double minded. And so that created the dynamic of 1 minute I'm anxious, the next minute when God don't do a thing the way that I think, or I'm waiting longer than I think, now I'm depressed, now I want to throw in a towel, and I'm feeling heavy. And then that would it would just be a continuous cycle. And so one day God told me, he kept rebuking double-minded. And I feel like moments where God will rebuke you for, or you enter into double-mindedness while you're trying to trust God, and you don't even realize that you're being double-minded. I didn't realize, at first God is like, stop being double-minded. And I'm like, by faith, I'm following you, I'm doing all of these different things. But what God was highlighting was the fact that, every single something didn't happen the way that I thought it should. It made me doubt God. It made me feel like maybe God is not going to do it. Every single time I waited long, way it made me feel like maybe God is not going to do this thing for me. And so, one day God dealt with me because I was asking him, how do I not be double minded? Because we all know that double mindedness, when we talk about waiting, double mindedness delays you, which means like if you are double minded, you're going to stay in that situation until that situation produces a heart of you, a heart within you that says, I trust God. You heard it right. I'll say it again. Like when you are double minded, right? Double mindedness keeps you stuck, it keeps you bound, which is why the devil works so hard to get us and to keep us in a state where we are constantly doubting God. Because the devil knows that as long as you are doubting God, you will not move. You will not move forward. You don't get to pass go. You don't get to collect your blessing. You don't get to collect, on Monopoly. You don't get to collect your $200. You go. And so as we stay stuck until the cycle, until the situation produces in us a heart that says, I have no choice but to trust God. And so I wanted to get out of that dynamic. And I asked God, I said, Lord, how do I get out of the dynamic of struggling with double mindedness? Anxiety makes you double minded. Depression makes you double minded. I'm going to say it again because I feel like a lot of times we don't understand what actually classifies as double mindedness. Those of you guys that are by anxiety, what you're claiming is to have a mind that is double-minded, a mind that trusts God sometimes, and then when things don't go the way or work out the way that you want them to, now you don't trust God. Those of you guys that claim things like my depression, that is you claiming claiming to be to be double-minded. Those of you guys that claim to be an overthinker, essentially claiming that you are a double-minded person. You are double minded, there are just some things that you just will not see God do in your life. And so here I am in a season. I'm tired of being rebuked. I have been in this season for over a year, and it's the same thing over and over and over again. And I'm asking God, like, God, I'm tired of you rebuking me for like double mindedness. Show me how not to be double minded. And showed me by giving me understanding. And what he told me or depressed is not only is it rooted in fear, but the fear is geared towards different things. When we enter into a space where we are anxious, right? When we enter into a space where we are anxious, the first thing that we encounter apart from that anxiety or apart from that anxiety is a fear of what the future holds. We are so troubled about what we're going through, the discomfort of what we're going through, the pain of where we are. You get what I'm that it makes us afraid of what will be or what is about to happen. So it's like instead of peacefully maneuvering and matriculating through life, we go throughout life and there is a certain hesitancy and a certain, fear and us wanting to control all of the details of what will happen. I that I'm making sense. When we are depressed, right? That is a fear that essentially says, things have been so bad that I am just afraid that I won't make it out of it. I'm afraid that I won't see better days. It's of hopelessness. Hopelessness is also rooted in, when you really get to the root of it, it's rooted in fear. And so these were the dynamics of what I'm going through. I'm depressed because I'm in a season for a stupid long time and I'm not seeing progress. So it makes me feel like it makes me fear that things are not going to get better and that I am just on a path that leads me nowhere. Essentially that I am on a path that turns into or is the anxiety, the anxious moments where I am so uncomfortable by these circumstances that I just cannot fathom going through something else or following God and then something else happens because I feel like this situation, this season is already about to take me out. True. Yeah. Yeah. So the first thing that God did was he gave me understanding of why I was anxious and why I was really battling depression. The second thing that he told me is that if you don't want to feel this way, you've got to keep yourself present. He said anxiety is tied to your future and depression is tied to your past. Yeah. Yeah. Again, he says, if you want to not be any, if you don't want to be double minded, you have to learn to focus on the now. The now is, this exact moment that many of us are in. He says, anxiety and depression make you leave my presence. They make you abort the now and abort what I'm doing in your right now circumstance. I'm gonna say it again. Anxiety is tied to the future, and depression is tied to your past. Yeah. I'm gonna say it again. God told me. He said anxiety is tied to your future and depression is tied to your past. And I'm gonna say it this way. Anxiety is tied to worrying about what the future is going to hold, and depression is tied to remembering the past. Not of the past, but the bad of the past, the uncomfortable of the past. You get what I'm saying? And so he was telling me, he says, if you want to get to a place where you're no longer bound by double mindedness, you've got to focus on where you are right now. And you've got to focus on what I'm doing right now. And what that meant was instead of spending my days trying to force a future outcome, or instead of using my days to avoid the past, you choose right now to sit in your present and to embrace where you are, to not think about the future, to not allow your mind to roam in any way. And so when you really start to break down like warfare is, warfare from the devil, however it is that he chooses to attack you. Warfare is geared at taking hold of your thoughts, because so a man thinketh, so is he. So a lot of times when we're waiting on God, when we are in the process of, learning who God is for ourselves in whatever facet that is, the devil's job is to attack us in such a way that captures our mind. Because even the devil knows that if he can affect how we think about things, then he can really do some damage. And meaning he can get us into a space where we are so double minded that either we quit before we see God do a thing, or either we're just so double minded that we don't see anything happen. Am I making sense? If not, thumbs up this video. Can you do me a favor? Please thumbs up this video. Thank you. And so in a way, like, that is where I was. I'm just gonna be for real. And so, that kind of how I spent my days. For reference purposes, I used to spend my days when I was dealing with double-mindedness focusing on how can I solve this problem? How can I avoid this pitfall? How can I get what I need from God? That was my main concern going throughout the days, which was my opening for I'm entering into the day for how can I not struggle no more? How can I not be waiting anymore? How can I, get what I need? How can I not be uncomfortable? And that was the very thing that made me feel stuck. And so when God said focus on the now, to me that meant stop focusing on what you feel the problem is. Ooh. Stop focusing on what you perceive the problem to be, and focus on what is happening in this exact moment of your day. If you're at work, focus on working. If come on, somebody. If God has you working on a project, if you're an entrepreneur, whatever the case may be, that means totally being present with the Lord. And honestly, that is the greatest sign of a person that trusts God, is their ability to not be hyper focused on whatever the problem is. Earlier today, God asked me the question when I first woke up. He said, you are at peace, because I'm in a season in a space where I am waiting on God. I have bills that are due. I have different things that are, and instead of me freaking out, I've been, honestly, it scared me a little bit. I've been so at peace, it doesn't make sense. And he asked me, he says, why are you so at peace? And I told God, I said, I'm at peace because I know that whenever the time is right for you to do whatever it is that I need you to do, it's going to be done. I don't have to go throughout my day focusing on the problem. There is so much more that I can entertain myself with or even indulge myself in throughout this day. And so while I wait, all I can do is what I can do. All I can focus on are the things that I can focus on. It does Worrying doesn't add minutes to our life. It doesn't move the hand of God. And that was a truth that God revealed to me in my wilderness, that you can worry all day long. You can cry, you can pout, you can receive all these prophetic words. But if it's not time, it's nothing that you can do to make it be time. And so, that was where I developed the phrase, how you wait is up to you. Man, how you wait, it's up to you. I'm going to say it again. How you wait, it's up to you. So you have to choose wisely. And that's it. That is it. That is what God has given me. And I pray that this has blessed those of you guys that have been dealing with double-mindedness, whether it's in the form of anxiety, depression, just you overthinking. If this has blessed you, can you just simply tell God thank you? Can you just simply tell God thank you? And there are some of you guys that need to sow. There is one person on here. God says to call you out. You need to sow a be anxious no more seed. I don't know why God is showing me anxiety when it revolves around you, Miss Nicole. But you need to sow your best seed and you need to label it be anxious no more. You are in a season where God is saying turn off your thoughts and literally rest in the now. Turn off your thoughts about how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And allow for yourself to rest in the comfort of your right now. And so that is it. For those of you guys that feel led to sow, you let God lead you with what you do sow, and you label this whatever you feel like you want to label your seed. I don't believe in putting unnamed seed in the ground. And so that is it, y'all. That is it. The moderators are about to post where you actually can sow. And so those are the ways that you can sow. Right there, PayPal, Cash App is the moderators' Cash Apps, and even the Zelle. Also, what do I have anyone that can sow for Micah? Do I have one person that can sow for Micah? Do I have one person that can sow for Micah? Also, what I want to say is we still have our June raffle. You can enter into this raffle for your chance to win a $100 Visa gift card. The raffle is $5 per entry. You can get as many entries as you would like, but the raffle is $5 per entry. And so if you're entering into the raffle, you sow your five or your multiples of five for however many entries you want, and you put your TikTok name or your name on here so that I know how to contact you if you win. We are going to pull this raffle on June 30th, and that's how we're gonna do it. And so that is it. I still need one person that can sow for Micah though. So if you can sow for him, can you just let him know or just type in on the screen, God is faithful? And so that is pretty much it, you guys. I love y'all. I'm about to trickle over to TikTok. I'm about to go inside because it's a little bit hot out here. And we are going to go ahead and do our TikTok live in probably T-5 minutes. And that is it. Again, if you want to enter into the raffle, it is $5. You can sow it to any of the ways above. Put the word raffle along with your TikTok name. And if you want to sow for Micah, just say God is faithful. And so I love y'all. I am rooting for y'all. And so until next time, y'all.